Your station, 101 FM, with Saturday Sports Scene.
Good morning and welcome to Sports Scene for another week. I'm your host, Kevin Braysher. Welcome back. Oh, it's a big week here in sport. Plenty happening in the world of sport, as always, and we will take you through it all the Aussie sport, all the international sport. It's all happening. Joining me on the show this morning, the founding father of Sports Scene, Mr. Darren Madigan. Darren, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, everybody. And what a week it has been in sport, and what a week it's been for soccer in this country. Yes, I will use the name soccer for the sake of us not being confused. And Manchester United, amazing on Saturday night to see that crowd there. But did it get any better than seeing those mighty Reds at the MCG and 95,000 fans singing "You'll Never Walk Alone"? They're talking about, I can tell you now on the forums back in England and that, they are just wrapped and just going on about it. There's a YouTube video up on it showing what we managed to do here in Australia. Another reason for us to be proud of our sporting prowess here in this country.
It's one of those things that transcends sport a little bit. Everybody was talking about that rendition of "You'll Never Walk Alone" that the 95,000 Victorians belted out that night, mate. It
was sort of on the cards because, I mean, I like to keep track, obviously, like a lot do, as a lifelong Liverpool and especially a Craig Johnston fan. He's the man that got me interested in it in the first place, like many. And you could see that everybody was ready right from around the country. People were getting their tickets, buying them early as soon as they found out the Reds were coming to Australia, because it was the first time that they'd been here. And you could just see that there was going to be no problems with filling the stadium. It was going to be a matter of how people conducted themselves and how Liverpool were going to conduct themselves here in Australia as well. And I just think it was 10 out of 10 all round.
Absolutely. You've got to give credit to the Melbourne Victory, the way they performed in that game.
Look, Ange Postecoglou, a self-confessed Liverpool fan, lifelong Liverpool fan, he was just, you could just sort of see it on his face that he was just having the week of his life. Having coached against Manchester United on Saturday night and then bringing his own team up against the team that he's followed all his life, and, a big, one of the world's top 7 or 8 football teams in the world, both in value and in brand name. And I just felt for him. I really did, because it was just magical to see. And look, great also to see the young keeper, the Australian keeper playing for Liverpool. He lost a child not long ago. And it was just, you could see the whole thing just meant so much to him. And they showed, his debut in the EPL, where the first time he even touched the ball was when he saved a penalty. And, you could just see that that's the start of a career there. And all these great players that have come out of this country over the last 25 years owe so much to that man, Craig Johnston, who played for Liverpool. And didn't they let him know it?
Absolutely, mate. Look, we'll get into the results now. We're a couple of men short this week. Craig and Ethan aren't with us this weekend, but they'll both be back on board next week. It's just me and you this week, Darren, but we've got some guests that are coming on the show a little later after the first break. From the QRL, Mr. Michael Hillier, he'll be on to tell us all about Country Week in the Intrust Super Cup, which is next weekend. We've also got Craig Miller, the operations manager of the NEAFL. Some big changes going on at the NEAFL over the next 12 months. He'll be on to tell us all about that. Lee Hanatscheck will be with us to talk motorsport at 9:30, and then Paula Stewart will be with us to talk some netball, round out the show at 9:45. So make sure you're listening to us here on Sports Scene. We'll start with the NRL last night, round 20. The Broncos, they gambled with a lot of changes during the week, and it paid off. An 18-16 win over the Cowboys up at 1300 Smile Stadium. A real litmus test for a lot of those guys. A tough game of footy. It just seems the Broncos-Cowboys fixtures always deliver, and it was a great game last night. Yeah. Another one that just hasn't been delivering all season, hasn't delivered for a long time. Parramatta Eels went down for the 9th consecutive time, this time 40-12 to the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs are up 40-0 with about 20 minutes to go, and just, they took the foot off the accelerator, as you often do when you get that sort of lead. But, who knows what it could have been if the Bulldogs kept playing to the 80th minute. The Eels in all sorts of trouble. We'll talk all about the NRL at about 8:30. In the AFL last night, round 18, Hawthorn up against Essendon. It was big billing for this game, and Hawthorn just showed why they're the team to beat this year. 22-11, 143, defeating Essendon 13-9, 87, and Buddy Franklin he put on a show, Darren.
He certainly did, and he actually put on a straight show too, 8-3. You know, it's not often we see those sort of figures from Buddy. You know, he'll kick a lot of goals, but he'll also kick a lot of behind. So fantastic kicking. But when him and Roughhead are both in form, and Roughhead kicked 4. He's also going to be looking at probably a tribunal hearing during the week, possibly, the way things are looking. But him and Buddy, you know, when they're in form, both going well, and you can throw Rioli into that, I mean, they're almost unbeatable. But to play Essendon, the rivalry is huge, but last night they got thumped.
Yeah, they really, really did. We'll talk about all the AFL at the top of the second hour at 9 o'clock. In the cricket overnight, Australia, they had a tour match up against Sussex at Stumps. They're 5 for 354. Plenty of the Aussies getting some runs in this one. Steve Smith, 98 not out overnight. Agar's at the crease. He's only faced 6 balls, so yet to score. But Cowan, 66. Hughes, 84. Kawaja, 40. Faulkner, 48. Plenty of starts there. Not quite going on with the job. It's been a bit of a symptom of Australian batsmen over the times, but perhaps playing themselves into a little bit of form ahead of the third test, and boy, do a lot of those blokes need it. Australia A taking on South Africa A. At Stumps overnight, South Africa A 7 for 614 in reply to Australia's 5 for 474 declared. Who'd have seen that coming? Elgar's mate's gone on scored 268. They've gone nuts. The South African A batsmen, they've gone terrifically well. But the big news for the Aussies coming out of that: Dave Warner 193 in the first innings, and Glenn Maxwell 155 not out. And mate, I know a guy, we'll be talking about all this later at 7:45, but Fahad Ahmad, he's got 4 wickets again after picking up 8 wickets in the last test. But as I say, we will talk all the cricket at 9:15, discuss our options for what we could do for the third test in terms of our selections. Darren, what else is happening in the world of sport?
All right, in the PGA Tour, we were in Oakville, Ontario for the Canadian Open. Hunter Mahan leading at 13 under after a first round 67 and a second round 64. He leads by 2 strokes from John Merrick, who shot a second round 62 to follow up his first round 71. Bubba Watson's currently at 9 under. He could be tied for 85th, and I'd still find a way to fit him into the report. Aaron Badley tied for 4th at 8 under. Scott Gardner from Australia tied for 8th also at 6 under. Alistair Presnell tied for 16th, and really Robert Allenby tied for 42nd. He's about the last big name Australian that's in that list going down there. Also, as far as the tennis is concerned, a few tournaments around the place. We have the Swiss Open in Gstaad in Switzerland. The big news during the week was that Roger Federer went out early in that tournament, but the quarterfinals have been decided, and the winners through there. Lopez defeated the second seed Wawrinka. A big win there for Lopez. Hayes defeated Granollers, Hanescu over Brands, and Mikhail Yuzny defeated Monaco as well. So there's some decent names floating into the semis there as well. Also, the Atlanta Open, Leighton Hewitt defeated Dogic 1-6, 6-3, 6-love in his quarterfinal. And just before we come to air, John Eisner has defeated James Blake in the second of those quarterfinals, 7-6, 7-6. As far as the girls are concerned, at the moment there's a tournament in Stanford in the USA. 3 quarterfinals have been played and won so far. Serstia, Lepchenko and Agnesa Radwanska defeated Francesca Schiavone 6-4, 6-3. So you got those 3 girls there through to the quarterfinals. I can tell you too, with all the things that have been going on with drug doping and all that sort of stuff during the week, Usain Bolt still stands tall. And in his semi-final and heat during overnight, he's run a 9.85. Now, he's been particularly slow this season, and that is his season best so far. The final will be raced later on today.
Thank you very much for that, Darren. Remember, if you want to get in contact with us at SportzScene, we are on Facebook and YouTube. Go youtube.com and facebook.com respectively /SportzScene, SportzScene, SportzScene. Also, if you want to send us an email, news@sportscene.com.au. We'll take a break here on SportzScene on 101 FM. When we come back, we'll be talking to the QRL's Michael Hillier. Stay with us.
Thomson Cooling is not only a cooling provider, you can also enjoy Enjoy a cosy, warm and clean environment in your home with cost-efficient reverse cycle air conditioning. Our station sponsor, Thomson Cooling, will recommend the best Daikin reverse cycle air conditioning system for your home. Interest-free packages covering supply and installation are now available. Friendly advice, peace of mind, prompt response, quality product and service. Call today for a no-obligation free quote. Thomson Cooling, 1300 852 869.
Looking for commercial space? Go to businessproperties.com.au. Just one click and you'll find a current list of excellent commercial properties for sale or lease. businessproperties.com.au.
Your station sponsor.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan here with you. It's 18 minutes past 8. Joining us on the line to talk about, we're talking QRL, Intrust Super Cup right now. Joining us on the line from the QRL, Mr. Michael Hillier. Mike, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, guys.
It's good to have you back, mate. It's been a little while since we last had you on. Before we jump into the Intrust Super Cup and all the news around the QRL, we're just talking off air. The great news, Queensland 8 in a row. I know a lot of people in the QRL were down there. You were down there yourself. How was that night for you and the guys in the QRL to see Queensland go 8 in a row?
Yeah, look, it was a fantastic effort. The amount of effort that goes into that whole series and the preparation from Mel Meninga, it's just incredible sort of having the privilege to sort of see how Mel does things, and they obviously got the result down there in Sydney. And one thing that stood out in my mind was just the atmosphere in the dressing room after the game. Peter Beatros, the QRL chairman, and Steve Walters and Mel Meninga presented the awards, and I'd say there was a lot of teary eyes when Brett Tate got the Peter Jackson Medal for outstanding contribution to the series, and of course Cam Smith got an award as well, and they announced all the Players' Player Awards with Matt Scott and getting a couple, and Corey Parker was the game one player of the match. So yeah, just those scenes in the dressing room after the game, they were incredible to see.
Absolutely. And to come back from, they lost the first game, they had to win the decider in Sydney. They hadn't won in Sydney since 2010. It would have been just a special moment for those guys to savour. Where does it rank in the run of eights, in your mind? Where does it rank?
Yeah, look, I reckon it's right up there, if not the best. Like, let's be honest, New South Wales dominated in game one, and our selectors had to make some decisions, and, they're stuck so loyal to players like Ashley Harrison and Dave Shillington, and unfortunately for those guys, they've missed out, and they brought in some fresh faces and some, I guess, younger blood, and it turned out to be the right decision with Chris McQueen. He was outstanding, and young Josh Papali, who's come through the South Logan system in the Intrust Super Cup. They really made their mark, so I guess hats off to the selectors and just the entire group for being able to win 2 games in a row and to go to Sydney and third. Like you said, it's pretty daunting down there. You don't get much going your way, the crowd and the referee and that sort of stuff. So, it's just a huge effort.
8-2 penalty count at one point. The online defence was amazing. So, well done to the Queensland boys. And also the Queensland residents, they played in the curtain raise, of course. We spoke to Paul Green about that a couple of weeks ago here on Sports Scene. They didn't quite get the job done, mate. How'd you see it?
Yeah, look, it was our guys led 10-0. I've got to say, Gold Coast Burleigh Bears player Tyrone Hayne, he was outstanding that first half. He got through a mountain of work. I think he must have picked up an injury. You might know yourself, Kev.
He did. He's out again this week. He's picked up an injury.
Yeah, he didn't back up. I see that for his club the next week. But he was great. The guys really dug in early, led 10-0. Unfortunately, we had a penalty that didn't go our way, and one of our guys got sinned in, and we didn't quite recover. But we finished at 4 tries all, and they just kicked a couple more goals than us. But, probably one that got away, to be honest. That's the first time we've lost that match in 3 years, so we were pretty disappointed. We kind of like to have the Queensland Intrust Super Cup winning, so we've got some bragging rights over the New South Wales Cup club, but it just wasn't to be.
That's it. All right, well, let's talk about some Intrust Super Cup now, mate. Next week, the round 20, bit of a special week. The teams are all travelling far and wide across the state. Tell us a little bit about it, mate. What's happening next weekend?
For sure. This is a very exciting weekend coming up next week. It follows on from last year, the first year we introduced Country Week, so it's a bit of an expansion on that. We've got games far and wide. There's games at Yarrabah, outside of Cairns. We're in Toowoomba, and the Toowoomba Clydesdales don't play in the competition anymore, but we've got the Jets playing Winner Manly at Toowoomba's Clyde Bergerhofer in one game. got the Sunny Coast Seagulls playing Tweed out at Woodford. There's a game in the Whit Sundays, believe it or not. North and Mackay are up there at Airlie Beach, so hopefully I can get a ticket for that one. And then we're out at Rugby League Heartland at Roma, hometown of Darren Lockyer and Arthur Beetson, with the Redcliffe Dolphins playing the Capras. And Burleigh get to stay at home at Pizzey Park against East. I'm not too sure the reasons behind that one, but at least there's a game in the southeast corner if people desperately need to see one.
As a person who covers the Burleigh Bears, I'm pretty happy that they're still at home. I don't have to travel very far, but everybody else gets a trip out wide. And I know, Darren, you're up in North Queensland. The game up at Yarrabah, South Logan up against Northern Pride, I know you're excited about.
Oh, look, first of all, Michael, congratulations to you guys at the QRL. This is just brilliant. I mean, to get the game at an elite level out to all the country areas. I come from an Australian football background, and we're doing exactly the opposite right now, and I think it's terrible. So I think what you guys are doing is just fantastic. And I said in a bit of an open letter to you guys the last few weeks, there are two things that you guys should not lose. It's this and your rivalry rounds, and really cherish them, because when you lose them, it really does make a difference, because I come from a sport that has lost them, and it makes a massive difference. This game at Yarrabah with South Logan and Northern Pride, I cannot stress how much this is going to mean to the community there. It's a large community just south of Cairns, and it's already being talked about in the local media. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, well said, mate. Yeah, we're very proud of it. That Yarrabah game, the Northern Pride, who are based in Cairns, do a lot of work in their regional areas outside of Cairns. And a young, well, he's not young, well, he's kind of young anyway, 27-year-old fullback from the Pride, Hezron Merger, who you guys would be aware of, to sign with the Cowboys, but he's from Yarrabah, so he'd be just very excited to get back to his hometown and for that particular game, and you can just only imagine the excitement in Yarrabah to see him come home and play in front of his hometown fans. So it's a real win for us, not just on that basis alone.
Absolutely. Look, of course, we follow the South Logan Magpies pretty closely here on 101 FM. They're featuring in that game. They had a great start to the year, up in the top 5. They've slipped a little bit in the last few weeks, mate. They're still only 1 point out of the top 5, a very congested ladder all the way down to 9th, and there's still people in the race. But South Logan currently sitting down in 8th. They've lost the last couple. What do you make of the position of South Logan at the moment, mate? Yeah,
I watch them pretty close. I think South's are everybody's second team. I've got a soft spot for them just for what they've done over the years. Look, pretty much it's going to come down to this weekend for them against Redcliffe at Redcliffe. It's always tough to win there. I think the winner of that game, it's going to be similar to the Cowboys Broncos derby last night in the NRL. The winner, I think, can probably go on and challenge the loser. Might just fall away a bit, but one thing with South, they put in every week. They've got a good coach in Mark Beaumont. One thing this week, they're going to miss Matt Pittman, Queensland residence prop. He's out suspended for a week, so that's a big loss for him, particularly as Redcliffe have got Petro Sivanaseva in the front row. So, look, I wouldn't write South off yet. They showed enough at the start of the year when they strung a lot of wins together that they can, be challenged for a top 5 spot if they can sort of get a win this week. You just never know.
That's it. All right, and back on the bush footy stuff again before we move away from that and get some tips for round 19 from you, mate. The destinations, Roma, the Whit Sundays, Yarrabah, how are these destinations the ones that were chosen?
Yeah, the clubs sort of liaised with the QRL, and they threw up some suggestions, some areas which are, sentimental to them and meant a lot. So Redcliffe's got a bit of an association with Roma, just with Arthur Beetson used to play for Redcliffe as well, and I think Brett Tate played for Redcliffe and was from Roma originally in his junior days. So Redcliffe, that was one area for them. Yarrabah, I guess, itself through Hezron Merger, the Pride fullback. The Woodland Ipswich game up in Toowoomba is an interesting one. The QRL would love to see Toowoomba back in the Intrust Super Cup. They haven't played for a number of years, and this game is going to put the Cup back on the map up in Toowoomba, and hopefully put it not so much pressure, but just get it a talking point again in Toowoomba. And Toowoomba currently playing out Colts competition, so they are sort of moving and pressing forward in regards to the next few years getting a team themselves.
Yeah,
Michael, would you be looking at them coming in as a standalone team or as a feeder club to one of the NRL sides again, like they were with the Broncos previously?
Yeah, probably a bit of both. I think the reality is you do sort of have have to have some kind of NRL feeder club situation to sort of strengthen you up, but they're just going to have to get their own house in order and make sure they're obviously financially viable. There's a great ground there, Clyde Berghofer Stadium. It's brilliant for rugby league. It's just a matter of getting the key people and key businesses behind them, really.
Mate, look, with the way the QRL is sending games out to the country, it's not a one-off type of thing. All season we've seen games sent far and wide across the land. It's something in the NRL, a lot of criticism was levelled towards the City Country game and the lack of crowd that it drew. And there's some suggestions that they should be sending NRL games out to the bush instead of, say, the City Country. Is this something that perhaps the NRL could follow the QRL's lead on and send more games out that way? Is that something you'd like to see?
Yeah, personally, I think so. Just to take a step back, this year you guys would remember the Rabbitohs going up to Cairns to play the Titans, and that drew a massive crowd up there, and the QRL was involved in those negotiations with the state government and just making sure that happened. So we would definitely support it. Just the only thing is you just got to make sure your facilities are up to scratch to host an NRL game. Rockhampton is one rugby league proud area up in CQ who'd love to do a similar thing, but unfortunately I don't quite think their crowd at Brown Park would be up to it. So that's the only thing you have to consider. But I think, personally, and from a QRL point of view, we'd definitely support the more NRL games played in the country, yeah.
All right, terrific. All right, let's get some tips for you, mate, for round 19 of the Intrust Super Cup. Starting tonight up at Brown Park, Central Queensland Capras up against the Norths Devils.
I tip the Capras there. Jason Hetherington, he's one of Mal Meninga's assistant coaches in camp, and he's a real great country character. They call him Dolphin for some reason. Anyway, Dolphin's got him firing, so I'm going to go with the Capras there to beat North.
They've been terrific at home this season, haven't they? One of those sides, I guess, a lot of people starting wouldn't have expected too much from, but they've pulled off some big upsets.
They have, and in recent times they've added a couple of NRL experienced players to their roster. Former Rabbitoh Jamie Simpson and ex-Bulldog Brent Crisp, both playing brilliant footy. So Jace Hetherington's wrapped with those two guys, just gives them a bit of experience. So they're a team on the up. And one tip there, mate, there's a young fullback called Cameron Munster, who's signed with the Melbourne Storm. You may have seen Kev. You don't like to put the too much pressure on kids, but all I'll say is in a few years' time when Billy Slater retires, I reckon the Storm's got their man to replace him.
Look, I think that's a good tip. I saw him play a couple of weeks back against Burleigh, and he scored a couple of long-range tries and made breaks. He was fantastic.
He's only 18. He's just incredible.
Yeah.
Let's hope he keeps going with his career.
Absolutely, fingers crossed for him. Mate, also tonight, the Mackay Cutters up against the Burleigh Bears at Virgin Australia Stadium.
Yeah, sorry, Kev. I'm going to have to go with Mackay in that one. Burleigh, they're plucky every week. They're not far away, but they just can't quite get over the line. A lot of tight games. So I think Mackay's going to finish second. They may even have a crack at the minor premiership. They're going that good. So Mackay in that one for me.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. Burleigh, they've lost a lot of close games this year. Travelling up to Mackay, it's hard to tip against Mackay, and that one will be a good game. Northern Pride up against the Sunny Coast Seagulls. Seagulls at Barlow Park tonight, mate. Yeah,
look, poor old Sunshine Coast. They're probably they don't have a lot of sort of NRL players drifting back because they don't have a relationship there. But they put in every week, but they just quite can't match a team like the Pride. So I think the Pride will rack up a big score there.
East Tigers up against Ipswich Jets, Langlands Park tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, this will be a beauty, this game. Yeah. There's a lot at stake. Both teams are just on, the Jets are in fourth and East are just out of the five. It's going to have massive ramifications on the top five this one. East have got a lot of Melbourne Storm guys in that side, with Ben Hampton returning. Probably tip East, but only just.
The Battle of the Seagulls at Coogorai Oval, Wynnum Manly up against Tweed Heads. The big point in this one, Corey Norman running out for Wynnum Manly.
Yeah, it should be huge for our ratings and crowd. It should give it a bit of a lift there with Corey Norman having a run. Wynnum will be fancied at home, and Tweed don't travel that well away from Piggy. I just got this feeling Tweed might cause an upset there, to be honest. So they're a very tough side, and they're well coached by Aaron Zimley. So it wouldn't surprise if Tweed get the money.
They've crept up a lot in the last couple of weeks. Tweed, they're coming back up. Redcliffe Dolphins, final match of the round. Redcliffe Dolphins up against South Logan Magpies at Dolphin Oval.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be much in this game, but my tip would probably be Redcliffe. Only just. You saw last week's game, Kevin, and I wouldn't say they're playing brilliant footy, Redcliffe, but they've just found the knack of winning again, so they might extend that and get a third straight win and put some more pressure on some other teams in that race for the top 5.
That's it. I'll tell you what, it's great to see Petro still going around. He was outstanding last week. He still goes good.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, mate, we'll let you go there. Thanks very much for being with us this morning. I'm sure we'll have you back on another time. Michael Hillier from the QRL, thanks for being with us on Sports Scene.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for the support.
Thanks a lot, mate. We'll go to a break now here on Sports Scene. When we come back, we'll talk some NRL. Stay with us.
Do you have a street light that's not functioning correctly outside your property? Perhaps you've noticed a floodlight over a zebra crossing that's not operating. Well, Energex would like you to report it to them by calling 13 12 53 or completing an online form for faulty streetlights on their website at energex.com.au. Remember also that the council has to pay the running cost of all the streetlights, whether they're working or not. So let's get the most for our rateable dollar by reporting the streetlights not functioning to Energex on 13 12 53 or on their website energex.com.au.
I wish I could have my heart attack again. I felt an ache in my jaw, ignored it. I felt a bit short of breath, ignored that. When I was feeling tight in my chest, I didn't realize my heart muscle had already started to die. And all I had to do right at the start was call 000. Wish I could have my heart attack again.
Learn the warning signs at heartattackfacts.org.au.
For the best musical memories from the 50s and the 60s, it's Ted's Memories. Saturdays from 4 p.m. and only on 101 FM.
101 FM.
You're listening to Saturday Sports Scene on your station 101 FM.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM, 26 minutes to 9 here on your local station. Next fresh news update coming up at the top of the hour. Kevin Braysher and Darren Madigan here with you. We just got off the phone with Michael Hillier from the QRL telling us all about Country Week coming up next weekend. Just a quick look at the Intrust Super Cup ladder heading into this weekend's 19th round. Northern Pride still out on top. Mackay Cutters follow with them. Wynnum Manly, Ipswich Jets, Tweed Seagulls rounds out the top 5, and then there's a three-way tie there on 20 points, just 1 point out of the top 5. The East Tigers, North Devils, South Slogan Magpies all there. Redcliffe Dolphins still in the race in 9th place. Then we got the Central Queensland Capras, Burleigh Bears, Sunny Coast Seagulls. Darren, as we were talking with Mike Hillier, the country round is something I'm a big supporter of, and I think they do a terrific job of it in the QRL, better than most organisations.
Yeah, look, I think we've got to look at the big picture here, and it's something that we tend not to do in sport a lot. But if you take a look at Queensland, simply from a geopolitical point of view, it's the most decentralised state in Australia. More people live outside the capital city than in it. You've got two cities, 1,500 kilometres north of Brisbane, that have in excess of 220,000 people in each of those cities. And that's just in the city limits. So we're talking obviously Townsville and Cairns there. Plus, really large centres in Rockhampton, Gladstone just to the south of there, Maryborough, Gympie, all those sort of places. So the fact that they're taking the game to these areas is just an absolute credit to them. And it's something, okay, we can sit here and say both major codes should have done this years ago, but these guys are doing it. And they started last year, and instead of talking about it, they're getting off their bums, they're paying the money, and they're taking their teams and they're sending them out there. And I can tell you, that game at Yarrabah is going to be huge. Yeah. Especially with the Indigenous community. And, don't think that South's Logan wasn't picked for a reason. We have a strong Indigenous community in Logan, and to send the team up to that Aboriginal community and to play against their team, the Northern Pride, it's massive. It is absolutely massive, and I'm wrapped in it. I saw that round a few weeks ago, and I'm thinking to myself, this is fantastic. This is elite football being played in the country areas, and they will be welcomed with open arms in each and every centre.
Dead right, mate. We're absolutely supported here on Sports Scene. We move to the NRL now. Two big games last night, mate.
Oh, mate, look, the Cowboys and the Bronx, and obviously the influence of Scott Prince there at the end. What were your thoughts on the Bronx?
Look, the Broncos, they had a lot of pressure on them coming in. Both these sides, really, it was a matter of, in terms of their mathematical chances of making the top 8, I don't think either of them will make the top 8 at this stage unless the Broncos make a really significant run. They needed to win this game. If they lost this game, it was essentially over. So big pressure. Cowboys, Broncos, these local quote-unquote derbies are always very hotly contested. It was again last night. The Broncos, they dropped Corey Norman. They dropped Peter Wallace to the bench. They moved Alex Glenn to the centres. Ben Hunt came in at halfback. Sam Thaiday moved back to the second row. And look, it came off for him. In the first 20-25 minutes, the Broncos were fantastic. The Cowboys woke up after that, but the Broncos found a way to fight in that second half, which is something that they've lacked a lot this season. That you saw a lot of desire out there in the Broncos, and I think Broncos fans would be very satisfied with the performance the Broncos put in last night. Justin Hodges' try late in the game, winning the game there for the Broncos, just an out-and-out champion for the Broncos, has been for a very long time. And as Wally Lewis said in the commentary, when the time calls, you give it to you guys that have done the job before, and Justin Hodges, certainly that guy. Good performance from the Broncos, I thought, all round. Ben Hunt, very promising signs at halfback. The question now is the recruitment. Where does it go next for the Broncos? A guy that there's been a lot of rumours about potentially coming back up to Queensland and to the Broncos, Ben Barber. And he went down hurt last night for the Bulldogs, mate. 40-12 there, the Bulldogs beat Parramatta. It was 40-0 at one stage with plenty of time left in that game. The Bulldogs took their foot off the accelerator, I guess, then after that. But you got to say for Parramatta, mate, 9 straight losses. Ricky Stewart was brought to that club on big money at the start. At the end of last season, he was the former New South Wales coach, formerly coached at the Sharks, the Roosters, coached Australia. He was brought in big money to promise to turn around that club. Look, if I'm a Parramatta supporter, I'm not happy with the job Ricky Stewart's done. For the money that they've given him, I realise it's the first year of his contract and these things take time. Rome wasn't built in a day. But you want your side to be putting in better effort than this. They're getting beaten like this far, far too often, Darren. If I'm a Parramatta supporter, I ask some serious questions about the job Ricky Stewart's doing. Yeah,
and that's a fair call too. He's brought in with a lot of fanfare, as he always seems to be, doesn't he? wherever he goes, and fanfare usually equates to money. And in any other job in life, you're expected to perform if you're getting paid the big money. And let's face it, a footballer's success is deemed by wins, and it's just not happening for them at all. We should point out too that the Broncos scoreline there was 18-16 there over the Cowboys. Before we get away from those two games, talk during the week about Prince's contract being honoured for the rest of next year, but in a feeder team instead of playing in the firsts.
Yes, and I think that's what we'll probably see happen. And the reality is with Scotty Prince, he's not a young guy anymore. He's had a long, very, very good career. The Broncos, they have to make the tough decisions eventually with this. The last couple of years, they've stuck solid with this squad. Scott Prince, he was brought to the club more because he had nowhere else to go and they picked him up on the cheap, but the Titans still paying part of his contract there. I can understand exactly where they're coming from with this, to move Scott Prince into the Intrust Super Cup. And look, I think keep an eye on the Broncos recruitment for the rest of this season. I think they'll probably have something up their sleeve. They've been very quiet on the recruitment front for the last couple of years. I think what we saw during the week with the player movements that they had and the changes they made to that side, they're looking towards next year. They're looking to make some changes to that side. I think the Broncos will sign somebody before the end of the season. And yeah, Scott Prince, a terrific career, I think. But it's probably time that he's been moved away from the first grade side. I don't know if he got out of his contract with the Broncos. I don't know that any other NRL clubs will be chasing after him at this point in his career.
Given the recruitments during the course at the start of the season, they'd still have a bit of money left in the salary cap, wouldn't they?
Look, they should have plenty. Even go back to when Darren Lockyer retired, Petro Sivanasiva retired after that. They lost guys like Ben Teo in the last couple of years as well. There should be, and they haven't really replaced those guys. They haven't recruited anybody really over the last couple of years. They should have plenty of money to play with Brisbane Broncos. So I would be surprised if they don't get some sort of big signings over the next couple of weeks. It started, Martin Kennedy hasn't been officially signed yet, but apparently that's all but a done deal. The big prop there from the Roosters. He was 18th man for Game 2 for Queensland, so I think that's a very good signing there, Martin Kennedy, but I'd expect to see a couple more guys come over the next 12 months at the Broncos.
All right, 5:30 this afternoon down at the Gong at Wynn Stadium. The Dragons take on the Canberra Raiders.
Yes, the Dragons and the Raiders. The Raiders don't travel particularly well, or well at all, to be honest. They've won every game at home this season, but they've only won 1 or 2 away from home. They come up against the Dragons side that are struggling a bit. But the big talking point of this, Blake Ferguson, who of course was stood down over a month ago for being charged with indecent assault. His ban has now been lifted by the NRL. He hasn't been named yet for the Raiders, but a lot of expectations that he will be there. And ironically enough, playing in his opposition would be his old mate Josh Dugan. So that's the interesting point there for that one. I can't tip the Raiders away from home. Their form is terrible, but again, I'm not particularly confident tipping the Dragons at this stage. But Raiders away from home, I can't tip them.
All right, 7:30 tonight at Robina. The Titans play host to the Rabbits.
Yes, the Rabbits without Greg Inglis still away from that side. We saw the impact last week. They went down without him in Golden Point, but it's still hard to tip against the Rabbitohs. The Titans get a couple of big names back in Nate Miles and Greg Bird. A couple of Burleigh Bears boys running around there. Jordan Rankin at fullback, Jamie Dowling in the centres. But, look, I can't tip against the Rabbitohs.
Okay, the Warriors over at Mount Smart Stadium tomorrow afternoon, 2 o'clock their time, against the Melbourne Storm.
Yes, this will be. Oh God, I reckon this will go close to match of the round. This one. Look, I don't tip against Melbourne very often, but I'm going to tip against them this week. The Warriors got a good record against the Storm. They're in very good form over the last couple of months. They're at home in New Zealand. The Melbourne Storm, Gareth Widdop gone for the season. They haven't quite recovered from that loss, I don't think. They'll get their big three back from State of Origin injuries, of course, but I think the Warriors for an upset in this one. I think the Warriors will win. Okay,
2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, Ramonda Stadium, and the Sharkies play host to the Penny Panthers.
This will be an interesting game of football, this one. The Panthers continue to punch above their weight. The Sharks coming off a very big defeat at the hands of the Roosters last week. The Sharks are favourites in this one, but again, I lean towards the upset. I lean towards the Panthers. As you know, me and Ethan say every week, a bit of sentimental favourites there with the Panthers. I like the way they play their footy. I lean towards the Panthers.
All right, Hunter Stadium, 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Newcastle play host to the Roosters.
Yeah, real test here for Newcastle. They're good at home. They're getting back towards full strength. Craig Gow has proved to be a pretty good addition to that side, even at 35 years of age. Bo Scott returns for him last week. I like the Knights, but the Roosters are in some very, very good form. You've got to tip the Roosters.
All right, Monday night football this week at Campbelltown. West Tigers play host to Manly Warringah.
Yes, the West Tigers, big outsiders in this one, and deservedly so. Look, I think Manly will win this game of football. West Tigers, again, it's all the talks around Benji Marshall and the way he's going to perform for him, but it really hasn't performed for him for the last couple of years. It's been a little while, so I can't see the West Tigers beating Manly in this one.
All right, your competition at the moment, Rabbitohs leading 32 points. They're a game ahead of the Roosters. Storm in third place. Sea Eagles, Bulldogs, Knights, Sharks and Raiders make up your 8. The rest of the comp, Panthers, Titans in 10th spot, Warriors, Broncos in 12th spot, Cowboys in 13th, your Dragons and 14th, West Tigers and the Eels make up the rest of the comp. When we come back, we've got a bit to talk about, Kev.
We certainly do. We just take a very quick look at that ladder before we go to that break. The Broncos and the Titans still in with a shot towards the 8. The Titans have got to lift their form. They've only won one of their last 5. The Broncos pretty much need to win every game from here on in to make it there. Both of them are in a tough position there to make the 8. But yeah, that's it for I think the Cowboys are probably gone now for the year. And for a side that massive expectations, you know, myself included at the start of the year on the Cowboys, I'd have to say that they've been the most disappointing side of the season. Yeah. We'll go to a break here on Sports Scene. When we come back, we'll talk some cricket. Stay with us.
The rides, the show bags, the fireworks. It's all happening at the 98th Mount Gravatt Show, July 27 and 28. There's arts and crafts, live entertainment, show jumping, ute muster, classic car displays, and lots of sideshows. And all rides are just $2. 101 FM will be there. The Mount Gravatt Show, Logan Road, July 27 and 28. Gates open 9 a.m. Adults $10, concessions and car parking $5.
Your station sponsor.
Life. Life is for living. So live it. Life. Life is for giving. So give it. Giving blood is cool. Needing it isn't. Red Cross. Give a little. Life is for living. Life is for giving. Help save lives. Please give blood.
Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on that farm he had a chicken, E-I-E-I-O.
The farms where most of our egg products come from aren't what they used to be. Across Australia, 11 million hens are still confined to the misery of battery cages. Please, don't buy into cruelty. Help Animals Australia put an end to factory farming.
Be a voice for animals at animalsaustralia.org.
101 FM.
You're listening to Saturday Sports Scene on 101 FM.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. 14 minutes to 9, your next fresh news update. Coming up at the top of the hour, just a reminder, each Tuesday morning during Morning Magazine, Terry Lindsay from our sponsor, Technology Training Group, answers your questions on all matters regarding computer technology. If you'd like him to give you the right advice, then email your question to techtraingroup at outlook.com, or phone Terry on 1300 136 679, 1300 136 679. Each week, a lucky person will receive a free lesson valued at $55. Where Kevin Braysher and Darren Madigan here with you on Sports Scene. Before we get into the world of cricket, Darren, we got some local news with the NPL.
Yeah, as far as the soccer's concerned in Queensland, we've got the Palm Beach Sharks playing Brisbane City at the Mullewa Complex at 5:30 this afternoon. Northern Fury play Olympic FC at Townsville at 6 o'clock this afternoon. That's at the Townsville Sports Reserve, so that's this evening at 6 o'clock. And the Far North Queensland Heat up against the Western Pride. This is another one of these games being played here in Mareeba, actually, just down the road from where I live, and 7:30 tonight. And the last time they played here, it was the best attended match in the entire round across the state. So they're really giving it a real big old push. There's been some great footballers that have come out of this area, and it shows in the support that they get. We've got the Moreton Bay Jets up against Central Queensland at Walter Park at 7:30 this evening. And also the Sunshine Coast Fire will be playing the Redlands United at Sunshine Coast Stadium at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Now, as far as the ladder is concerned at the moment, Olympic are well ahead at the moment on 49 points. They're ahead of Brisbane City on 38. Brisbane City will be playing the Brisbane Roar soon too, I think, in a pre-season match. We'll try and get you some details on that. Brisbane Strikers just behind them on 36 points. Redlands United, Sunshine Coast Fire, the Moreton Bay Jets sitting in 6th spot, Northern Fury, Western Pride, Palm Beach Sharks, Far North Queensland Heat, CQFC and the QAS bringing up the rear there with 5 points in 12th spot. So that's pretty much what's happening in the local scene at the moment, and obviously we're all getting ready for the A-League to get cranking very soon.
Certainly will, mate. All right, we'll leave that there for now. It's time to talk a bit of cricket. As we touched on at the top of the show, tour matches going on. Australia up against Sussex. The Aussies, plenty of batsmen getting their starts. Cowan 66, Hughes 84, Khawaja 40, Steve Smith 98 not out, Faulkner getting 48 as well there. Plenty of guys there finding a little bit of form there in that tour match. Over in South Africa, Australia A, of course, Dave Warner 193 he got there, Glenn Maxwell 155, Aaron Finch getting 51 at the top of the order. In reply to that, the South Africans have gone ballistic and they actually lead at the end at stumps on the day, 7 for 614. They lead Australia A by 140. Who'd have thought that? An Austin trail after declaring in your first innings.
We should point out how they did it too. 268 to Elgar and 159 to Solakili. I mean, my goodness. I mean, I have to admit, in the early hours of this morning, I was keeping an eye, even though I was trying to get some sleep, hoping that Elgar would get to triple. I know it's almost un-Australian, but you don't see them very often, and especially against an Australian side. And I'm thinking, he's so close, and then all of a sudden, bang, he's out.
It's one of those things. It's always exciting, no matter what level somebody gets to a triple.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, you don't see them very often.
No, you don't. All right, well, let's something else we don't see very often lately is Australian Test wins. We've lost the last 6 in a row, the Aussies. So here on Sports Scene, let's come up with some ideas. Darren Madigan, I know you've come up with a team. Why don't you take us through your suggestions for the Australian Test cricket team? All
right, got to preface this by saying there's a bit of fantasy land here, with at the same time all of it being totally possible. And a lot of this team is about saving face in England. I'm not worried about the 5 tests that are going to be played in Australia yet. This is about saving face. So David Warner and Simon Katich to open the innings. Now, you're probably saying, Simon Katich, what are you thinking? Well, Old Trafford is where we're playing the test. It's his home ground for Lancashire. Plus, his last 2 first-class innings there over the last few weeks have been 100 and 200. So the guy is absolutely in form. The guy he's got to make up with and talk to batting at number 3. It's time for the captain to step up and go back to number 3, as captains before him and other great players have done when they've gone on Ashes tours down through the years over the past 20 years. They've stepped up to number 3 when they weren't there in the first place, and they've scored runs. Ricky Ponting, he's only just retired. He is in form. He nearly scored a double in his final innings, and he's over in England. I think he's still there, but he was there, and there's no reason, if you could talk him into it. This is about saving face, remember, get into play. Shane Watson, playing more as a batting all-rounder, down the order at number 5. Brad Hatton as wicketkeeper, because you've got to have that stability. Stephen Smith wasn't in my side until he went and scored himself 98 not out last night. Now he is.
It's the same.
Mitchell Johnson. Mitchell Johnson isn't currently in the squad, but Mitchell Johnson, if he's on target, is unplayable. Plus, he can score test match hundreds. If he's playing badly, yes, he's awful. But if he's on fire, he can go out and take 7 wickets in an innings. Mitchell Starc, Ryan Harris did too many good things in the last test not to be picked. And Fawad Ahmed, who's just got his passport, otherwise he wouldn't have been eligible till mid-August. In there as I want, if the ball is going to be turning away from the bat, and in modern cricket you've got to have someone who can do that. I'd rather have a wrist spinner doing it than a figure spinner. Sorry, Ashton. Sorry, mate. He's going to have a great career and a great future, I think, Ashton Agar, but I just think his he's there for his bowling, and he's not doing it with his bowling at the moment.
Okay. All right, let's go through it. That's Darren Madigan's team for the 3rd test of the Ashes. All right, let's discuss some of those points. The first one I'll go to, which, everybody's got differing opinions. That's the great thing about this team at the moment. Is everyone's going to have an opinion on what they think should happen. I disagree with the idea of Ponting, even if in a bit of fantasy world. I think Ricky Ponting, let's look at the last couple of years he played Test cricket. He wasn't scoring runs. He scored runs against India a couple of years back.
Yep.
Before that, it was 2 years between his last century. He was playing poorly against South Africa. He's retired. His mindset isn't there. I think he has nothing to gain from coming back except to perhaps tarnish himself more if he doesn't score the runs. I don't think bringing Ricky Ponting back would achieve very much personally.
Yeah, I think he really was only, as far as his test career goes, if you go back through the numbers over the last couple of years, it was only just towards the end that he wasn't really scoring runs. When he had a bit of a slump, he came back in a massive way with double hundreds and that.
Only once. Only in one test series against India.
Well, that was the only test series they played at the time.
Well, then he came back against South Africa the next year and he was scoring 5 and 6.
And that's the point. And that's when he got dropped. So, that's when he retired, sorry.
Yes.
But he was going to get dropped anyway, I think, wasn't he?
Yes.
But as far as his first class form in England, and it is important when you're playing county cricket, and that form is important over there because it is a different world over there. But as I said, it is one of those things. We need stability. We need to save face. I am coming from this from the point of view. I'm not trying to blood anybody. I'm not trying to look at the future. I'm trying to save face for these 5 test matches. That is all.
I understand that. My thinking is more, if we take some pain over there in England, but it benefits us when we come back to Australia, that matters more.
That's
to me, if we lose this 5-0, but we win the series in Australia, we're not going to remember losing in England. We're going to remember this for the next 3 years until there's another test series. So to me, I think Ponting would be looking backwards, even though he was in good cricket, good form over there. I don't believe that his mindset would be there for it. I don't think he would want to do it, even if he was asked and begged. So yeah. I can't get on. I'm sorry, mate. I can't get on board with it.
Yeah, but you're looking at it. You're looking at it in the smart way, and the way that we should look at it from a selector's point of view. I'm looking at it from the point of view is I don't want to lose to the Bombs.
Yeah, cool. Well, another old bloke that you said there that I can get on board with is Simon Kadich. At 37 years of age, I don't believe he should have been dropped in the first place a couple of years ago. He has been playing. He's never not played good cricket over the last 2 years. I can definitely back Simon Kadich to get back there. The big thing is, of course, pretty big feud there with Michael Clarke. But as we've discussed, mate, they're big boys now. They're in the biggest test series of the year.
Oh, yeah.
They got to get along. And I believe Simon Kadich could definitely get the job done at the top of the order. Dave Warner, 193 there for Australia A in the first innings there against South Africa A. I think he probably comes back in. And to my basis on that, I'm still not entirely convinced on Dave Warner as a test cricketer because he'll get some low scores, then he'll get a big one. But I think of all the batsmen Australia haven't got in their lineup, if there's one bloke England don't want to be bowling to, it's Dave Warner, because he can take a test match away from you like that. So I could get on board with bringing him back as well. Michael Clarke, I'd play at 4. At 3, I'd probably retain Phil Hughes at 3 at this stage, give him a little bit more chance. I'm not a big advocate for massive wholesale changes in the middle of a series. I think it'll bring some sort of disruption there. So I can leave Phil Hughes there. He scored runs last night in that game against Sussex. He scored runs in the first test as well. He's got the talent there. I think we're going to stick with some of these guys a little bit and give them a chance. I think we stick with Phil Hughes for this one. Batting down the order, 5, I'd leave Steve Smith. And like you, mate, I wouldn't have had Steve Smith until he scored that 98 last night. And then you take into consideration he took wickets in the last test match as well as a bowler. So Steve Smith stays there at 5. Watson again. I'd have him down to 6. Look, we haven't really tried Watson down the order. It's always sort of been at 3 or 4, and it puts a bit of pressure. I think you play him down the order, you can use his bowling a bit more, and he showed he could be a very, very good and very dangerous bowler for us. Yes. I'd have Haddon stays there at 7 as the wicket keeper. Our bowling attack is a little different too. There's no way I'd be dropping Peter Siddle for one. I'd keep him there. Ryan Harris again, he'd keep his spot. I'm a big fan of Jackson Bird as well, so they'd be my 3 quicks. And I'd be bringing Nathan Lyon in as the spinner. He's a guy solidified his spot in that team over a couple of years, a good period there, and played some good cricket and took wickets, despite a lot of the criticism he gets, because he's not a fancy bowler, but he keeps it tight and he takes his wickets. So he's the guy I'd have there, and I'd be keeping an eye on Ahmed for perhaps the home series coming down the track.
The hardest person for me to leave out of the side was Peter Siddle.
Yeah.
The 2 things I agonised over was number 4. And that took me 45 minutes this morning trying to find someone other than Ricky Ponting to put in. And Peter Siddle. Peter Siddle was really, really hard to leave out. I didn't want to do that because he's gutsy, and the captain can throw the ball to him and he can bowl all day.
Absolutely. But like you say, like the guys you suggested there with Mitchell Johnson, he showed some great improvement in the home series back for Australia, bowled terrifically, and he can bat as well. So look, we've got some really good depth in the fast bowlers. James Pattinson going down hurts, but he hasn't particularly performed that great in the first couple of tests anyway. But yeah, for my mind, Ryan Harris was fantastic. Siddle's, to me, is the guy. He's the most reliable guy that we keep there, so he's the guy I keep there. And I'm a big fan of Jackson Bird, as I say. The point of contention is the spinner. I think Agar, as great as his 98 with the bat was, his job's to take wickets. That's right. It hasn't quite happened for him yet. And as you said, mate, as a 19-year-old, his time will come in the side. It comes down to he's been scoring, he's been taking wickets for Australia A. He's also been giving up a lot of runs. So there's 2 ways to look at it with him. He will be taking wickets, but he's going for 4.5 and over. He's 3 for 177 at the moment there against South Africa, although they're scoring runs against everybody at the moment. So we'll see. I think his time will come as well. Perhaps the next one. I'd be sticking with Nathan Lyon for this series. Absolutely. And like I said, the only thing I want in my side, though, in that bowling department is I want someone turning the ball away from the bat. I really do. And that's what a lot of people have been after with Nathan Lyon, and what a lot of people criticise with him. We've got to go to the news here on SportzScene. When we come back, we'll get Craig Miller, the operations manager for the NEAFL. He'll be on the line to talk to us about all things NEAFL, some big changes coming up next year, which he'll tell us all about. So stay with us here on 101 FM, your local station. Kevin Braysher and Darren Madigan here with you on SportzScene. Here on 101 FM, 6 minutes past 9. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan here with you, taking you through the world of sport for the next hour. We'll take you all the way through until 10 o'clock. Joining us on the line from the NEAFL, Mr. Craig Miller. Craig, welcome back to the show.
Pleasure, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Not a drummer at all, mate. It's good to have you on, as always. Mate, this weekend's games for the NEAFL all being played at the one ground, mate. Tell us all about what's happening this weekend in the NEAFL.
Yeah, it's a new initiative by the NEAFL. It was trialled in pre-season, and it worked extremely well with some high crowds attending, but also the supporters got an opportunity to I guess, the players in the competition and how that was all going to unfold the 2013 season. We thought that we could replicate that in the home and away season, and it kicked off last night between Redlands and Aspley, and that was a fantastic, well-attended game, and Redlands, in a surprise upset over third place, Aspley got up and by 17 points, and then again today at Lation Park in Yeronga we'll see Mount Gravatt and Southport at 10:30, Labrador and the NT Thunder at 1:30, and then Morningside and Broadbeach this afternoon at 4:30 in the Twilight game.
That's the stuff. So basically, the thought process for this weekend is to get all the best players in the one play, all the players from the NEAFL into the one place, so that everyone can come and see them at the one time. That's the thinking?
Yeah, in effect, Kevin, that's exactly right. It's showcasing the highest level of football underneath the AFL on the Eastern Seaboard at one location, and we're sure that it'll be well attended by the general public, but also a really fantastic opportunity for AFL recruiters to head up out of the southern states and watch some footy leading into the draft, and hopefully it encourages a few clubs to see our players and encourage them to take them at the national draft in November.
Yeah, it's something we've talked about a bit with Craig Crowley in the past on the show, but the process here, like you talk about the AFL recruiters coming down to have a look at the players. The guys, it doesn't work. It's saying rugby league, they have the feeder clubs going up to the next level. In this level, mate, it's everyone is available to be drafted. So to have them all in the one spot and have the recruiters easily be able to see all these players, it gives the players a real chance to stand up and potentially get themselves an AFL contract, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's the national draft is basically any player that plays across the country can nominate for the national draft. You can only get drafted if you have a nomination registered with the AFL, and there's somewhere between sort of 1,500 and 2,500 registrations each year, and as we know, there's thereabouts 100 selections on an annual basis. So there's a select few that get the opportunity to play at the elite level, and we hope that this type of concept will grow some leagues into the future. That recruiters will see this as a great opportunity to watch 4 games of footy in a 24-hour period at one venue.
Sure. Just on the one venue, all being played at Yeronga. Why is Yeronga the ground that's been chosen?
Lation Park is where AFL Queensland head office is. It's a $7 or $8 million facility that was built here 2 or 3 years ago, and it's size fields, the same size as the MCG. Good infrastructure and facilities to cater for these types of events. So it's probably our best facility in southeast Queensland, and gives the players the opportunity to play in a venue that is more than likely going to host the NEAFL Northern Conference Grand Final this year.
That's it. Look, all right, before we move on to some questions we have about the changes coming into the NEAFL, mate, Darren Madigan, I know you've got some questions here.
Yeah, g'day, Craig. Mate, with the game a couple of weeks ago in Cairns in the AFL, the media, we were all told by the AFL that this was the last game to be played up there unless we can find a couple of teams to get up there, and I was surprised that Brisbane and the Gold Coast don't give up a home game and play up here. Now we have most of the competition playing at one venue, and I'm glad you've clarified this morning why they're all playing at one venue because of the scouting situation. But we're seeing the QRL next week taking their elite level footy at the same level of ours at the NEAFL out to the country. What is the thinking at AFL Queensland at the moment within country football in the state of Queensland? I mean, are we going to see some of these elite level matches, say next season or something like that, start to spread their wings and maybe play a country round like the QRL are doing? Because I think it's a great initiative.
Yeah, no, it's a very reasonable and valid point. It's I guess the ability for various codes to expand their footprint into various areas is important, and it's all about growth strategies for all sports, and it's about showcasing what we perceive is high quality second tier semi-professional football.
Yeah.
And full marks to the NRL to be taking that on board. The NEAFL over the last 12 months have done that a couple of times. We had a game in Mackay this year, which was really well attended. It was on Anzac Day at Harrop Park, and over 4,000 people attended that game between the Brisbane Lions reserves and the Gold Coast Suns reserves. Mm-hmm. So there's games forecast to be played in the Northern Rivers region next year, Toowoomba, the Wide Bay area. So it's definitely as something that the AFL is wishing to expand to give, I guess, the general public, but also some of the local football leagues the opportunity to witness some of this high level football and content that you alluded to.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I must admit, when I found out you were coming on and I took a look at this, you can imagine my frustration. I mean, I've been a lifelong, most of my life has been devoted to growing the sport in this state. And, both as a broadcaster and someone involved in administration and playing and coaching the game. And when I saw that, I saw what was happening the next week in rugby league, it was like this diametrically opposed thought process about how we are going to grow the sport in the most decentralised state in Australia. And I looked at that, and having come away from the AFL game in Cairns, can you imagine, and I'm not the only person to be thinking this, how frustrated we would have been seeing that?
As in your frustrations around the fact that it hasn't been confirmed for the game in Cairns in the future, Darren? Or?
That was just like the last straw sort of thing. I mean, when I saw all most of the elite competition at NEFL level playing at one venue, when our opposition code was taking the game to the venues around the state, I thought, what are we doing to grow the sport?
Yeah, no, we currently, the NEFL currently play games. Generally, it's not too dissimilar, the fixture, to what other codes are doing, and that there's 9 home and 9 away games. At the moment, the NEFL have had games in Cairns, Mackay, Alice Springs, in Darwin at TIO Stadium. We play games in Canberra, Sydney, Wagga. I mean, it's the Central Coast. There's a game in Newcastle this year in the NEFL. So, I mean, we're definitely expanding our horizons and making sure that, as you alluded to, that I guess the general public, but also some of the local leagues, get to witness high level content. But there's no doubt that the AFL, soccer, rugby league, rugby union are all looking to expand their operations and to promote their codes, and I'm sure that that'll continue to happen into the future.
Yeah, I guess the one good thing about it is we do have the venues to play at now too, with Australian Football Park in Cairns, which is now called Kazali's, has been called the best country footy facility in the country. You've got Riverway Stadium in Townsville, and I'm sure some of the other venues up and down the coast will get better as well, and we'll get to see some more of these games. But, mate...
Our infrastructure down in North Queensland is as good as any in the state, and Kazali's is a first-class AFL standard facility. Tony Island Stadium's had a NAB Cup game, and in the future may have its own AFL game played out of Townsville. So there's a lot of infrastructure up there that can cater for high-level sport, and it was great to see Kevin Rudd, the Prime Minister, commit to a pre-election commitment of over $5 million worth of lighting infrastructure for Tony Island Stadium, which means that facility becomes then a nighttime venue for AFL or any other code that chooses to play out of that venue.
Fair enough. Let's look at the positive side of things now. Southport and Mount Gravatt up at 10:30 today, about half an hour after we come off the air. Great rivalry, these two teams. What are your thoughts on that match?
Yeah, I mean, in isolation, you could easily look at it and see that Southport are second on the ladder, and Mount Gravatt are struggling at the bottom part of the table. But Mount Gravatt have been impressive for probably at least a half, 2.5 quarters. The last time these teams met, it wasn't the walkover that everybody would have anticipated, and I believe off memory it was the 4 or 5 goal victory to Southport in the end. But I mean, Mount Gravatt are building some momentum. They got over Labrador 3 or 4 weeks ago in a really a good game of footy, but I think Sharks will be too strong today. They lost last week to Aspley, so I'm sure they'll be looking for a bit of revenge and make sure that they can put themselves up in a strong position come the finals.
No worries. At 1:30, we've got Labrador at home. Well, at home. They're the home team, but they're all being played at Cairnsdale Street at Yeronga against the Northern Territory Thunder.
Yeah, the NT Thunder had a big upset win last week against the ladder leaders in the Brisbane Lions reserves in Darwin, which was a huge win for that footy club. So they'll come down today full of confidence. Labrador, be fair to say, have struggled this year, and they've only had the solitary win earlier on in the piece, and they are really battling some injuries and some form at the moment. So I would have thought the NT Thunder would be the favourites in this game, but it is always difficult for the boys to travel down from the top end into southeast Queensland for games, but I think the NT will be too strong.
All right, and Morningside and Broadbeach at 4:30 p.m. I think the game will be better than the ladder positions dictate.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think this is definitely one of the match of the rounds, and Morningside off a shock defeat last week to Redlands, who have hit their straps in the last couple of weeks, but it was a 10-goal defeat to Morningside, and they're a lot better side than that, so I'm sure Aaron Rodgers and his troops will come out today in a really fiery game against Broadbeach, who had a comfortable victory last week against Mount Gravatt. They need to win today, the Panthers, to keep that finals aspirations alive. With only sort of 2 games post this leading into the final, so they desperately need the 4 points. But for Broadbeach, it's all about just maintaining some momentum in the back half of this season.
No worries. And at 10:05 a.m. this morning, Gold Coast Suns at Metricon taking on the Giants reserve side.
Yeah, it should be a good game down at Metricon Stadium. It's an earlier start. It's one that the clubs probably wouldn't be overly comfortable with, but with the early start for the AFL game, it made sense to play this at 10 o'clock. I think the Giants will be too strong. They're the Gold Coast Suns have a number of injuries across their list, and they're requiring a lot of top-up players at the moment out of the local teams. So I think the Giants will be too strong on this occasion.
Okay, Brisbane Lions have the bye. The competition at the moment, Lions, Southport, Aspley, Gold Coast Suns and Thunder make up your 5. The rest of the comp, Morningside, Redlands, Broadbeach, Labrador and Mount Gravatt. Craig, just some thoughts. I believe Aspley are probably the story of the past 18 months in Queensland footy. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, they've been fantastic. I mean, and full credit to the board of the Aspley Hornets Footy Club. They've been in the competition now, it's their 5th year, and they really were finding their feet in their first 2 or 3, and that's a great observation. Their last 18 months has been outstanding, and their whole dynamics in that footy club have changed. They changed a lot of their football department. They had a different recruiting strategy. They did a lot of work on the north side of Brisbane to engage all the clubs over there, so they became their feeder clubs, and that the best players were playing in the NEFL. And I think the big move was getting John Blair, the really experienced past Morningside coach who had the year off last year, was looking for a new challenge. He's moved over there, changed their structures, and they're a real contender. Last night was a bit of a hiccup for them, and I don't think anyone would have seen Redland getting over Aspley with the form that they've been in of recent times. But full credit to Redland, but Aspley are definitely a contender for this year's grand final.
Great stuff. Thanks for joining us, Craig, and I really look forward to having a chat with you next week about
Just before we let you go, Craig, we alluded to it at the top of there, but just you'll be able to tell us a little more about it in the coming weeks' time. But there's some big changes coming to the NEFL over the next couple of years, mate. What can you tell us about some changes coming?
3 years into the competition, Kevin, and the competition's probably over the last 12 months been an internal review into it, and how is it tracking. Like any business, I suppose you need to assess what you're doing well and what you need to improve on, and the NEFL has undergone that, and we've presented to the clubs that there's going to be some potential changes to the structure across the 4 states, not just isolated to southeast Queensland, and we're still meeting with clubs to finalise those details. So as you alluded to, in the next couple of weeks, all of that will be finalised, and I can probably allude a bit more on the specifics. But it's definitely exciting. It's exciting for Queensland footy, and ultimately the NEFL is about talent outcomes and providing a pathway for elite players to move into the AFL system, and we just need to make sure that we're maintaining that at all times when we make decisions about the future of the competition.
Sure. I'm sure you can't tell us exactly too much at this stage, but in terms of exactly the structure-wise, are we looking at some teams that will be there, some teams that won't be there next year? What sort of kind of structural changes are we looking at for the competition?
Yeah, so the clubs have been presented a couple of models that they have the option to elect to be a part of, and the NEFL is one of them. And we have no preconceived ideas on who should or shouldn't be in that competition. We're simply saying, can clubs meet the 5 key objectives of the competition? And if they can, then we encourage them to apply for a NEFL licence. And if they don't feel that they can, or that they'd like a change, but they've got an alternate model. So, I mean, we won't know for at least another week or so where clubs are thinking that they best see themselves as a club. And there is still a lot of water to go under the bridge, but there will be less teams in the NEFL in the future, and that will span from Canberra all the way to southeast Queensland, and it's only just a matter of time now before that decision is finalised in consultation with the clubs.
Okay. Well, you'll be back on in, once we get all those details come out to tell us all about it, I'm sure. Craig Miller from the NEFL, thank you very much for joining us here on SportzScene once again.
Pleasure, gents. Thanks for your time.
No worries at all, mate. Thank you. We'll go to a break here on SportzScene. When we come back, we'll go through some AFL.
Life is for living. So live it. Life is for giving. So give it. Giving blood is cool. Needing it isn't. Red Cross. Give a little. Life is for living. Life is for giving. Help save lives. Please give blood.
There's nothing like the smell of a barbecue. Sausage cooked to perfection with delicious onion, or scrumptious bacon with egg on a fresh burger bun. Each month, the team from your station 101 FM cook up at Stormont Office Works on Compton Road to raise funds. Drop in and say hi and support your station. Keep listening for details and like us on Facebook. We're your station, Logan City's 101 FM.
Good morning, Romeo's Lonely Hearts Club. Good morning, Romeo's. Looking to be lucky in love?
Hi, my name's Ralph, and I'm looking for love and companionship.
Oh, well, I'm sure we can help you, Ralph. Tell me a bit about yourself. Are you fit, healthy?
Oh yes, I run every day. And I'm the strong, silent, faithful type.
Oh, you sound wonderful, Ralph.
Oh, and I'm de-sexed, vaccinated, and temperament tested.
Lovely.
Right now, the perfect lifelong companion could be waiting for you and your family at the RSPCA. They're happy, healthy, and looking for love.
Oh, and I love kids too.
G'day. Me name's Con. That's short for air conditioner. Get it? Anyway, around here, I'm not just a pretty face. They depend on me to deliver clean, fresh air and quiet performance 24/7. So, to keep me in tip-top condition, the boss only trusts one bloke, and that's Nick from Marshall Air Conditioning and Service. Hey, round here, they call him the Shining Star. Get it? Star, as in Marshall. Anyway, for sales, service and installation in all areas and workmanship that's guaranteed, call Nick anytime on 0417 715 137.
101 FM.
You're listening to Saturday Sports Scene on 101 FM.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. Kevin Braysher and Darren Madigan here with you, taking you through to 10 o'clock. It's 24 minutes past 9 currently. The next news update coming up at the top of the hour. A reminder, this Thursday morning from 9:30, the 101 FM monthly movie happens at station sponsor, the Hyperplex Cinemas Loganholme. Catch Tony Collette and Steve Carell in the comedy The Way, Way Back. Plus, enjoy a great morning tea and the chance to win a prize, all for just $8.50. That's the 101 FM monthly movie at the Hyperplex Cinemas Loganholme. All right, thank you very much to Craig Miller for joining us on the show just now to talk all things NEFL. Darren, before we move on to some tips for the AFL, just a quick update on some SBL, some basketball.
Some SBL, local basketball. Let's see what we've got here with the girls. The girls last week, and just taking a look at as far as the Logan girls were concerned, the Logan Thunder had the bye there, but this week they are playing the Southern District Spartans at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon at Cornubia down there at Loganholme, or Cornubia Sports Complex. So it's Logan Thunder playing the Southern District Spartans. As far as the men are concerned, West Logan had a good win against the Suncoast Clippers last week, 106-76. And as far as the Logan Thunder is concerned, they also had a bye. But this week, West Logan will be playing the Southwest Metro Pirates. That's 11:30 a.m. this morning at Logan Metro Indoor Sports Stadium. So that's actually the home of the Logan Thunder WNBL team. So also with the Logan Thunder will be playing the Southern District Spartans at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon at Cornubia Park.
That's the stuff. Thank you very much, Darren. It's time now to talk through some AFL. One game already played last night, round 18. We're up to the Hawks, 143-87. This was first versus third. It should have been a lot closer than that. But Darren, the Hawthorn Hawks are proving, unless you're Geelong, they're damn near unbeatable. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, too, when they've got everybody on board, pretty much. How do you take them on? I mean, Franklin coming back from a knee injury, kicking 8 goals, 3. A guy who's one of the best forwards in the comp, Jared Roughhead, also goes and kicks 4 as well. And, when they're actually also featuring in the best players side, I think, they're just on song. They really are. And look, I think the gap between 1 and 2 and 3 and the rest is widening. I think it's widening. I think Essendon, they got thumped last night, but that was probably an indication of where they're at the moment. They didn't have a good week either, but then again, they've been dealing with that all season. They've been dealing with the off-field stuff all season, so I don't think Essendon can ever use that as an excuse this year because they've come through so many times. Yeah, that's it. They've been performing all year under those circumstances, so you can't use that as an excuse for last night. The Hawks, just far, far too good. Just a quick shout-out. Craig Crowley's just sent us through a text message. Of course, not with us today. He'll be back on the show with us next week. Giving us a shout-out to his son, Nick, playing his first seniors game for the Sharks today. Best of luck, Nick Crowley. Craig Crowley, of course, will be back on the show with us next week. Shoot through the rest of the round now. The Gold Coast Suns. What about their win last week over Collingwood? They take on Carlton at Metricon Stadium this afternoon, 1:45 p.m. The Gold Coast Suns, mate, last week. Was that the best win of their short history?
Yes, and I'm giving up tipping for good. Yes, it was. Just fantastic effort. I mean, to beat Collingwood's a big deal. They're talking about, if they can manage to knock off Carlton, and they're a serious chance to do that. If they do that, the two biggest teams in football, in terms of support and everything, that will be the making of the club, I think. So tonight's when the Gold Coast Suns play them, it's going to be an absolutely crucial game. Coming up against Carlton, this is a crucial game in the history of that football club. Am I game to pick? Look, I'm still going to pick Carlton, but gee, I tell you what, I wouldn't have picked the Suns to beat Collingwood last week.
Right. And Carlton sitting in ninth place, a crucial game for them as well. It's an important game of football. It's at Metricon Stadium. The Suns have shown all year that they lift when they play at home. Yeah, well, I get a sneaky suspicion they can make it 2 in a row.
Look, it's very different reasons, isn't it?
Yes.
They're both. It's important for both clubs for very different reasons. Carlton are sitting in the horrible ninth spot that my team usually sits in Richmond, and the Gold Coast Suns. Well, this is a club making moment. It really is, because they've knocked off Collingwood. If they can knock off Carlton, who are playing, they're playing okay. They've had 2 wins recently, and they're sitting in ninth spot. They're a game out of the 8. That's important stuff. It really is in the history of the club. I'm still picking Carlton, but if Suns come out of this, don't underestimate how historic this moment will be.
Absolutely right. The next game this afternoon at Etihad Stadium, 2:10 p.m. The Melbourne Demons up against the North Melbourne Kangaroos.
Oh, goodness me. These days I'm really not sure about Melbourne. They're capable of, they're not winning, but they're capable of causing a lot of trouble. And you just don't know. In North Melbourne have been losing games I never expected them to lose. But I just don't think Melbourne have enough class to get over the top of North to win.
Yeah, fair enough. Collingwood up against the GWS Giants at the MCG, 4:40 this afternoon.
Yeah. Look, I think a fairly comfortable win to Collingwood. GWS can play a great half of football, but they're yet to, in their history of their club, they're still yet to put together 4 great quarters. So, still Collingwood to win comfortably.
The bounce back factor coming in for them after the loss last week, they weren't expected to lose.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't want to be the team playing Collingwood after losing to the Gold Coast Suns. Collingwood have enough firepower to cause a real whipping.
Yeah. All right, Freo up against the Adelaide Crows over at Patterson Stadium. That'll be 7:40 p.m. Queensland time.
Yeah, Freo lost to my team last week, which was great. Look, it's... Yeah, Adelaide Crows, Freo. I think at the moment Freo will still win, but the Adelaide Crows are better than what they've been playing.
Fair enough. Geelong up against St Kilda at Simmons Stadium tonight at 7:40 p.m. Simmons Stadium.
Yeah, look, Geelong at home under lights. Only I think the 3rd game they've played at Cardinia under lights. I think it might be in their brand spanking new stadium. I think they're going to beat St Kilda fairly comfortably, who are coming off a 4-game losing streak.
Hard to see any other result in that one. Port Power up against the Brisbane Lions tomorrow afternoon at AAMI Stadium. That'll be 1:10 p.m. Queensland time. Yeah,
Port Adelaide have surprised all season, haven't they? Both Craig and I had them as our wooden spooners at the start of the season, and I owned up a long time ago. Craig, you're yet to say we were wrong. They have been great. Whether they can hold on to that top 8 position, they've certainly been good enough to do so. As far as the result of this match is concerned, look, the Lions have had 3 wins in a row, and as Vossi said during the week, finals is not crazy yet. It's still a mathematical possibility, but as I said last week, you've got to probably win 14 games to make the 8, and that means they have to win the next 7.
If it makes you feel any better about tipping Port Adelaide to take out the spoon, me and Ethan both tipped the Cowboys to win the comp in the NRL, so none of us having any luck in that one. The Western Bulldogs up against the West Coast Eagles, Etihad Stadium, 3:20 p.m. tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, West Coast Eagles losing games they should not be losing, although I'm glad they lost a particular game.
Yes.
With their roster, Nick Naitanui at the moment is doubtful that he will play again this season. He's carrying injuries everywhere. You name a joint in his body or a muscle, he's doing it a bit tough at the moment, which is really tough when you got one of the big name draws in the competition. But look, I think the West Coast Eagles still have too much class to get over they'll get over the Western Bulldogs.
Final match of the round, Sydney Swans, Richmond Tigers, SCG tomorrow afternoon, 4:40 p.m.
Match of the round, and possibly, if it goes the way these two teams have been playing, one of the matches of the year. An absolute perler. This is one of those heart says one thing, head says the other. I think Richmond at the moment are playing with a belief that they have not had for over a decade, or nearly 20 years. And I think that they can take the Swans in what would be, even though Richmond are playing so well, would still be regarded as an upset.
At the SCG, absolutely it would be. Take a look at the AFL ladder. Hawthorn out on top, followed up by Geelong. Essendon, Sydney Swans is top 4. Freo, Richmond, Collingwood, Port Adelaide rounds out the top 8. And we've got Carlton, West Coast, Adelaide, Brisbane in 12, North Melbourne, and then we got the Gold Coast Suns in 14, Western Bulldogs, St Kilda, Melbourne, GWS on the bottom, yet to register a win. We'll take a break here on SportzScene. When we come back, Lee Hanatscheck will join us on the phone to talk us through the world of motorsport. Stay with us.
Do you have a street light that's not functioning correctly outside your property? Perhaps you've noticed a floodlight over a zebra crossing that's not operating. Well, Energex would like you to report it to them by calling 13 12 53 or completing an online form for faulty street lights on their website at energex.com.au. Remember also that the council has to pay the running cost of all the streetlights, whether they're working or not. So let's get the most for our rateable dollar by reporting the streetlights not functioning to Energex on 13 12 53 or on their website energex.com.au.
I wish I could have my heart attack again. I felt an ache in my jaw, ignored it. I felt a bit short of breath, ignored that. When I was feeling tight in my chest, I didn't realize my heart muscle had already started to die. And all I had to do right at the start was call 000. Wish I could have my heart attack again.
Learn the warning signs at heartattackfacts.org.au.
For the best musical memories from the 50s and the 60s, it's Ted's Memories. Saturdays from 4 p.m. and only on 101 FM.
I came to this country because my cousin...
To SportzScene here on 101 FM. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan still here with you, taking you through to 10 o'clock to the top of the hour. Joining us on the line, SportzScene regular from the Australian Karting Association, Mr. Lee Hanatscheck. Lee, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kev. Great to be with you from sunny, bright, blue sky, Eastern Creek.
Yes, mate. You're back on the Lee Hanatscheck National Tour. What are you up to today down there?
Yeah, down here for the Castrol CIK Stars of Karting. And it's the fourth round of the 5-round championship here. And the battles for titles are coming on in earnest and going on for young and old.
That's the one, mate. Any local boys in action?
Young Callum Walker, who we spoke about last week, is his interaction from Canubia. Also, we've got Troy Bretherton and Chris Hayes from the Gold Coast, Ben Stewart and Adam Mercer from the south side as well. So there's a number of competitors from the region who will be in action.
That's it. All right, mate. Well, also happening up here in Queensland and the local stuff, the V8s are in action at Ipswich. Darren Madigan, we had some practice yesterday. We got some results for that.
Yeah, we did. David Reynolds in practice session 2, fastest there for the Bottle-O FPR Ford. Mercedes, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Lee Holdsworth, Tim Slade and Maro Engel. I don't know, a lot of people saw that one coming, but Lee, how indicative do you think those results are given its practice session 2?
A little. That's probably the easiest way of saying it. I mean, it's great to see the Mercedes up there. You know, they've put in so much effort to get on pace, and, you know, they've jagged a lap. Can they do it again in qualifying today? I hope so. I hope for their own sake that I don't think they'll be where they were yesterday, but I think they'll be, you know, around about the 10-ish.
FPR with David Reynolds up there, well, that's great because that shows that their speed at Townsville was not just a one-off. They're back. My dark horse for this weekend is the HRTs of James Courtney and Russell Ingall. There's my dark horses to be fit in the top 5.
The paperclip, as I like to call it, and everyone else does, at Queensland Raceway is, I think, just by the layout of the track, it will rely a lot on mechanical grip out of the corners, of which there are many. What cars do you think that'll suit the best?
I mean, I think the FPR cars have always shown some good speed there, and also the engineers at what is now Erebus Motorsport certainly know that track like the back of their hand. So they will be very strong. Red Bull Racing Australia had a test day, which they went through a myriad of discussions and engineering issues, and hopefully for their sake they've got on top of them. For the rest of the field, it'll be good to see Red Bull Racing Australia maybe not have as bad as a result what Jamie Whincup did in Townsville, but not dominate like he has in the past. So I think the world's most boring racetrack, where
is that Winton?
part of it, will create some good racing.
I always thought Winton was that, actually. But, okay, just practice session 2, David Reynolds, Lee Holdsworth, Tim Slade, Maro Engel, Fabian Coulthard, David Wall, Will Davidson, Jason Bright, Alex Davidson, and Chaz Mostert make up your top 10. I think this also doubles as a basically a practice and testing session for the co-drivers for the Enduros, doesn't it?
No, not this one. They had some drivers had one session yesterday.
Yep.
I know Nick Percat had a session, and a few other drivers had a drive in the first session of practice yesterday. But it's not a dedicated co-drivers practice.
All right. Your championship at the moment, Jamie Whincup, Craig Lowndes coming in second, Will Davidson, Mark Winterbottom and Shane Van Gisbergen make up your top 5 at the moment.
Darren, just a quick side before we move away from Ipswich Raceway. An interesting result, the Dunlop Series, a very famous name, Casey Stoner finishing up on the top of the timesheets in practice for the first time ever. Lee, what do you make of that?
How could we get through a media queue without talking about Casey Stoner in the Dunlop Series? I mean, what would we remember that one? But, great result for Casey there to be on top. That's probably the joint that he's done the most amount of laps around in anything out of the circuit.
Yeah.
So, it's great to see him set the pace, and hopefully continue that and get some results on the board this weekend.
That's the one. Darren, back to you, mate.
Yeah, I was just taking a look at a bit of the NASCAR stuff. Lee last week before we went alluded to the Truck Series, which is the third tier of NASCAR racing at the famous Eldora track, which I think is the fastest dirt track in America, if memory serves. Mate, I took a little bit of the footage, a lot of the footage of that. I know what they were trying to achieve there, but, after looking at the race, there wasn't enough sideways for me. What about you?
Yeah, I haven't seen any vision. I've only seen some comments on Facebook from different people about saying the lack of excitement from the race.
Yeah. That's disappointing because, I mean, it promised so much, I think, and the tests leading up to it, which you can see on YouTube, were promising a lot. But I don't know, maybe the series has outgrown dirt.
Yeah, I think I tried to provide a bit more so I can chew from the feedback that I've seen around the place.
Okay. One of the jewels in the crown, I'm trying to bring up the practice session results, but I haven't got them in front of me, but one of the jewels in the crown of NASCAR this weekend as we go to Indianapolis for the Brickyard 400, and one guess who the focus and spotlight is on, a certain lady. Danica Patrick. She's all over the media there at the moment, but I'll see if I can get some results before we get to the end of that. But the Brickyard 400 is a big one, Lee, for NASCAR.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge event. It's, as you say, one of the jewels in the crown, and should be a cracking event this weekend.
All right. As far as Formula One is concerned, Hungarian Grand Prix this weekend. Practice session 2, Seb Vettel and Mark Webber leading the session there. Romain Grosjean third, Fernando Alonso fourth, Felipe Massa, who's just struggling to hold on to his seat at the moment, if you're to believe the stories, in fifth, Lewis Hamilton sixth, and we've got Daniel Ricciardo sitting in 17th. The talk at the moment, Lee, is that after this race, there may be a decision made on the Red Bull seat.
Yeah, that's certainly the case. I had some inside knowledge on that one yesterday, and yeah, certainly after this weekend, there appears to be some decisions being made from Red Bull Racing Australia. So let's just hope Daniel Ricciardo can put a good result in and give it a crack, and hopefully he can get that together.
All right. Ross Brawn looks like he may end up leaving Mercedes GP. Paddy Lowe is shaping up as the guy to replace him. The Indian Grand Prix is possibly in jeopardy due to tax issues. The talk also at the moment in the headlines is that we are looking at, during the week, the Austrian GP at the Österreich Ring, or the A1 GP, or the Red Bull Ring, whichever you want to call it, is coming back next season, and it came completely out of the blue. It wasn't included on the original 2014. Now there's a lot of backtracking going on, Lee. I don't know what to make of it, because it's possible with the date there that the New Jersey Grand Prix could get ditched again for another year.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Interesting times for F1 to see how it all comes out. You say the New Jersey race, see how it all pans up, and yeah, we'll see how the next couple of weeks.
All right, and I've got some great news too. At the just to end things on Formula One legend, one of the great contributors to the sport in Murray Walker, the great commentator, has revealed he won't have to undergo chemotherapy anymore for the lymphatic cancer. Things are looking a bit better. So I think for a lot of fans, including those of us who grew up with Murray Walker as the voice of Grand Prix racing, that is great news. He's not a young man, and anything that makes his life a bit more comfortable would be I think we'd all agree is a great thing.
That's it. Look, we'll leave it there, guys. Thank you very much, Lee Hanatscheck, for joining us once again here on Sports Scene. Lee, we'll have you on again next week.
Yes, thanks, guys. All the best.
No worries, mate. You have a good one. We'll take a break here on Sports Scene. When we come back, we'll get Paul Stewart on the line to talk through the world of netball. Stay with us.
Hi, Steve Kerr.
Here on 101 FM, Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, still here with you, taking you through to the top of the hour at 10 o'clock, 13 minutes to 10. Joining us on the line, a Sports Scene regular from the Golden South Jags, Paul Stewart. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me back, everyone.
Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Darren Madigan's here with us as well. There's plenty happening in the world of netball, Darren, a few big signings.
There certainly is. Good morning, Mrs. Stewart. How are you this morning?
Pretty good. How are you?
Very, very good. There's a lot of big names going on. Just before I get onto the player movements, I've just been taking a look at the home and away. There's a draw has been announced for the ANZ Championships. I've got a feeling that the Firebirds might have venue problems, because they're playing 1, 2, 3 matches on the Gold Coast, including the grand final replay against the Adelaide Thunderbirds next year.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything officially, but I have heard that they're wanting it to start to move it around a little bit. And the Gold Coast venue being such a big venue, that they're wanting to get a few more games down there. So now that the Gold Coast is starting to get the tram lines and everything in, this year wasn't a great season for them to have it because of the traffic chaos that's happening down there. But I suppose they're hoping that next season will be good, and they want to start to build it there.
Well, all I can say is we've got 2 5,000-seat venues about 1,500 k's north of there, and we'd love to see them up here in Townsville and Cairns. It'd be great. All right.
Yeah, I heard that they were trying to, I mean, again, this is only a little bit of gossip, but I heard that they're trying to get themselves around that little bit more. Firebirds every year they're getting more popular, and which is great because, they deserve the accolades, and hopefully, they will get to town for one time as well.
Well, okay, they have been up here years ago during the Commonwealth Bank Trophy days, but at the moment we're looking at 3 games at the Brisbane Convention Centre and 3 games at the Gold Coast. Convention Centre as well. Things will be early next year. We're starting, the first match will be on the 2nd of March at the bottom of the world in Invercargill against the Southern Steel, and they'll finish up at the end of the season at Claudelands Arena against the Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic the 2nd of June. They've got to get the season basically out of the way because they're all off to Glasgow for the Commonwealth Games next year. So as far as the player movement is concerned, the really big name during the week, Irene van Dijk. She goes from Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic to where she actually lives in the Central Pulse. I only found out, Paula, during the week that all of these years she has been commuting to Waikato.
Yeah, well, I didn't realise the same as Langman. When I heard she was moving in Irene van Dijk, I thought, wow, that is pretty big news there. Two very high-profile players moving. But I was informed that Langman's was commuting a lot. And she's actually going to be going back home, where she actually lives. So she was only commuting because of the coach that she loves and she wanted to stay with her. And I suppose Julie Fitzgerald is an unknown and she wants it unknown to New Zealand terms, but very, very huge in Australia. So that's a big move because Julie Fitzgerald is a great coach but she's lost two big well-known players in New Zealand.
Yeah, and it's just give us an idea of just how massive this is, because Laura Langman is the captain, and she's going to probably what are their arch rivals, the Mystics. And Irene van Dijk, well, I mean, no introductions needed there. I mean, she's possibly the greatest player to play the game. I mean, how big a loss is that?
Well, I think it's a huge loss. I mean, Julie Fitzgerald, I would say any player in Australia would go with Julie. But then with the rules now, with you can only have the one import. I think she might be finding it a bit hard because she will have to make sure that she is picking 11 out of the 12 players that are from New Zealand. So it's going to be a big call for her, especially losing those two big players. So I mean, anyone in Australia would travel and be with Julie Fitzgerald on high-profile coach that she is. So it's going to be interesting, and hopefully the New Zealanders would take her in, but at the moment, losing those two is a big call.
All right, another big loss too to Norma Plummer and the West Coast Fever is Catherine Cox. She hasn't said she's going anywhere in particular at the moment that I've seen, and I don't know if she's retiring because all it's showing up is has left West Coast Fever. But gee, I mean, I guess the move west didn't quite work out.
No, West probably didn't work out for her. Well, then as Julie Fitzgerald, lost her job, and that's when Cath Cox then went to West Coast. I mean, nothing's been said yet, but, is Cath Cox going to be the one that's going to be going over to New Zealand as the import? I have no idea. That's no gossip or anything, but that could be, something else that, she hasn't put down if she's going anywhere.
Yeah.
I heard that she's still going to be playing, but maybe that might be on the cards.
Are you thinking Magic?
Yes, that's me personally. That's what I'm thinking, yes.
Fair enough. Yeah. The big news during the week, the retirement of, well, probably I don't know what you think, but I think the big three as far as Australian netball are concerned is Vicky Wilson, Liz Ellis and Sherelle McMahon. And Sherelle McMahon, she's retired during the week.
Yes, she has. I'm actually, Sherelle tried to come back. It's very hard after one was Achilles injury that she had. I've never had that done, but I heard how hard it is to come back. And while she was trying to come back, and then she, had was pregnant, had a baby. That's 2 years out of the sport. I think she, for her age and 2 years being out of the sport, I thought she did a great job, but I think for her to hold her head up high, I think it's a great time for her to step down.
Now's the time to ask, where does she sit in the pantheon of Australian netball in the history of the sport?
Oh, sorry, I lost you on that one, Darren.
Where do you see her sit? Where do you think she sits in the history of the sport in this country?
Is that Sherelle McMahon?
Yeah.
Oh, she's a legend. I'm so pleased to hear when I read it too that the Vixens are going to keep her more on like a coaching base, so she'll probably come in as a mentor. She is one that's really brought up the profile of netball as well. So as you said before, you've got your Vicky Wilson who brings up the profile, Liz Ellis, Sherelle McMahon is that next one, and she is an absolute icon in the sport, and I'm so pleased that the Vixens are grabbing her with both hands and still going to be promoting her, and hopefully with her talent that she can help the players come through, just with her mentoring and coaching skills.
To give you an idea too, where she probably sits in many people's eyes, is that many years ago there was a rumour, and a strong one floating around the sport, that there were only two players who were truly professional in the game, and that was Liz and Sherelle, who could actually make a living out of the sport. And Sherelle was doing it purely on the sport because she had no media profile. I mean, Lizzie was doing all of that. And look, it's just an absolute legend of the game, as you say, and she cannot be lost to the sport. She must be kept, and I too am glad to hear the Vixens are going to be doing the right thing. Also, the Thunderbirds, the current premiers, have re-signed Erin Bell, Rebecca Bully and Lee Waddington. With the retirement of Nat Von Berto, that's so important.
I think Nat Von Berto is going to be a huge loss. I was quite surprised to hear with Nat Von Berto. I thought she might have gone for another season or two. But some of the injuries that's happened, and she feels it's a good time for her to retire. So I was actually quite shocked on her retirement. And I think, too, she's one that's, being the centre court player, the link player, she had really lifted the Thunderbirds through. And, she would be a huge loss in their team. But, I mean, they've already signed up 3 nice players, so that's got a good start at the moment. And one thing I do like is, listening to other clubs picking players and actually saying it, because there's some teams you have no idea who they've picked up and who they haven't. And I think as soon as they sign, I think it's great to actually publish it, to say, yes, we have signed this person. So they've got three nice players at the moment, but Nat Von Berto is a big loss.
Fair enough. And we've had a reduced Diamonds squad announced for the upcoming series of matches against New Zealand and also the Malawi Queens. And as far as the Firebirds are concerned, Laura Geitz, as you would expect, Nat Medhurst, Kimberly Ravillon and Gabrielle Simpson have all been picked in that side. Is that about how you would have seen it?
I mean, I was surprised, I suppose, on a few players that were picked. Kimberly Ravillon, I think she is a talent. I was probably a little bit of a sceptic with the her being so young, being the main player, centre court player for the Firebirds at the start of the year. And I'm so pleased that she proved me wrong, and probably a lot of other critics out there. So she has played a very strong year. And I think she really deserves a spot in the Australian side. So hopefully she'll get the final call-up being in the top 12. I think it's a big call to probably have a young girl to be your main centre, but I think the experience will do her wonders. So I'm hoping she does make the top 12.
All right, first test will be against the Silver Ferns over in Chile, Invercargill. Love sending us down to the bottom of the world, don't they? Stadium Southlands at Invercargill on the 15th of September, and there'll be the first game back in Australia will actually be in Adelaide in October. We do actually have a test on the Gold Coast, and that'll be against Malawi on the Saturday, the 19th of October. But as we get closer to those, we'll bring you more up to date on those things. Just finally, Queensland Fusion sitting second on the Australian Netball League ladder. What are you hearing out of the squad at the moment? Good things?
Very good things. Very positive. I'm pretty close friends with Kylie Sampson, the coach there. She's doing a wonderful job. So with the Queensland Fusion, she will get back 3 Firebirds players starting next week because their season is over. So she does get back Amelia Ann Wells, Laura Tomiska and Nicola Gray. So they're 3 that would go into her team, and the team's actually doing very, very well at the moment. Tiasa Baldwin, I don't think anyone can stop her. She had a great, probably 3/4 of the season this year. Probably didn't start great, but she had 3/4 of the season, the later part was fantastic. And she's even gone even stronger with Queensland Fusion. And she is looking very, very strong at the moment. And I've had really good vibes in the team, that teamwork, everyone seems to be going out hard and really working hard for the team. So that's fantastic for Queensland Fusion.
Great.
And I put my bets on they will make the grand final. So there you go.
Fantastic. Paula, thanks for joining us this morning, and we'll catch up with you very soon.
All right, thanks a lot, Darren. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Thanks a lot, Paula. Welcome back anytime. We've got to wrap it all up here on Sports Scene, coming up to the news at 10 o'clock. Darren Madigan, thanks very much for being here today. It's been a bit lonely, just the two of us through the show with no Ethan and no Craig, but they'll both be back next week. We missed them this week, but Darren, thank you very much for the show today. It's great stuff.
Mate, thanks for having it. It's great stuff, and always have a good time, and I hope my Tigers get up against the Swans this week.
Is that going to be your tip of the weekend?
I hope so, yeah.
I'll go with the Warriors. I stuck my neck out a little bit on them to beat the Storm. Very rarely do I tip against the Storm, but I will this time. I'll tip the Warriors. We've got an outside broadcast coming up on 101 FM straight after us, so stay with us. It's time for the news. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan signing off for Sports Scene for another week. We'll be back next time. See ya.